almost every Gen X or Gen Z or whoever the young 20-year-old chicks, they're all ordering that by name. Trying to get them to order Red Mountain Vodka by name.
Down at Auburn Arena tonight, the Tigers and the Tide play again. Second battle of the season. Jay Bilas will be there with ESPN. You'll see him tonight, 8 o'clock tip. Welcome in, Jay. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I just called in to first-time caller, long-time listener. I just called in to talk about vodka.
Do you have any opinion on it?
Yeah, I like it.
Us too, yes. Yeah, Jay is on the JohnsonRVCenter.com hotline. Bigger surprise to you if I had told you this preseason that Auburn is number one or Alabama is unranked when this game rolled around? Which one would surprise you the most?
Alabama being unranked. Auburn has two absolute freaks, and I mean that in a positive way, that they put on the court in Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith. I mean, teams don't have that, and they do. So to be able to protect the rim and then to have a guy that is so difficult to contain in Jabari Smith, and then Walker Kessler has become a really good scorer and a lot more versatile this year. And the pieces around him are obviously outstanding, but it would be, the surprise would be Alabama, and they've been a little bit confounding in that you think of Alabama as a 3-point shooting team, but they're not a 3-point making team this year as they were last year, and they're not as good defensively. But man, because they spread the court so well and play 5 out, and they're so aggressive, they wind up getting a ton of not uncontested, but twos. I mean, they shoot close to 58% inside the arc, and they do a pretty good job of getting to the free throw line, and they're one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the country, largely because they get run-ups, and they're hard to box out because they come from the perimeter, and they chase down a lot of loose balls. So they're formidable. It's just that they've been a little bit inconsistent. I don't think anybody can figure out how you can beat almost every good team you play against. And then and they've got arguably they've got the most impressive wins of any team on the season combined. But they've also got some losses that kind of leave you scratching your head because they're significantly better than most of the teams they've lost to.
Jabari Smith might be the best player in college basketball. A lot of people believe, Jay, he'll go number one overall. He's one of your Wooden finalists right now. But how important has Walker Kessler been coming over from North Carolina?
He's been vital, really, because of his ability to block shots and protect the rim. And he's so good in the air. I mean, he catches everything. So after he sets a screen, whether he slips out of it or rolls out of it, he can catch in that short roll and still make a play. And not a lot of 7-1 guys are doing that. He's had to guard out on the perimeter this year, which he didn't have to do as much when he was at North Carolina. And look, he would have played a lot more at Carolina. He just played behind two, really good big guys. So it was hard for him to find the floor. But when he did find it, he was really effective. But I don't think you can overstate it. I mean, I think it gives guys like KD Johnson, Wendell Green, and Flanagan and those guys the ability, and Jasper too, who's their best on-ball defender. I think it gives them the chance to be more aggressive because they've got somebody, and Jabari Smith fits in there too because he blocks some shots and changes them, but. It gives them the chance to be more aggressive because they've got a pretty good eraser on their pencil there if they make a mistake.
You know Cameron Indoor so well. What do you think of the atmosphere that Auburn and Bruce have created there in Auburn Arena?
I can't believe it. It is. It's so electric in there and so loud, and it's consistently loud. It sells out all the time, and. I don't think it's one of those places where people come to see the opponent. There are a lot of great places when they're full, but they're full based upon the opponent. And that's not what Auburn has. They're full based upon Auburn. So Kentucky comes in here and probably thinks they're dragging the crowd with them, and they're not. No matter who Auburn plays, it's loaded. And so it's a great atmosphere. We were here for game day a few years ago when they played Kentucky. I mean, it might have been the Final Four year. I can't remember. But I was blown away. I had never been to Auburn before and was absolutely blown away by it. And I expect a similar thing tonight. And I can't imagine. Look, I don't make the game day decisions, but I'd be shocked if we weren't here before the season's over.
Jay Bilas for a few more moments on the JohnsonRVCenter.com hotline, 8 o'clock Central, down at Auburn Arena, ESPN, Alabama and Auburn. You know well, Jay, we take great pride in our football in this state. But from the outside looking in, with Andy Kennedy at UAB, Nate Oates at Alabama, Bruce Pearl at Auburn, is this as healthy at the same time as you've seen the major programs in our state?
Yeah, I mean, back when Sonny Smith and Wim Sanderson and Gene Bartow were at the helm, it was pretty darn good. But there's so much more coverage of it now. But yeah, I think it is as good as it's ever been. And the game's so exciting, and the athletes are so amazing. And I think the use of the 3-point shot has made basketball a really compelling game. I mean, not to get up on a high horse and/or soapbox, or a high horse standing on top of a soapbox, but if we could figure out officiating in college basketball, the game would skyrocket. We're watching essentially hockey games out there right now, and I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And these things are hand-to-hand combat fistfights, and it's ridiculous because these guys can make plays, and we should be watching them make play after play. And then if Walker Kessler can block the shot, great. But watching these guys muscle each other on drives, which are clear fouls, and have them go uncalled. I'm on the NCAA's competition committee, so I look at a lot of this data. You might not believe this, but foul calls this year, not fouls committed, because there have been a ton of fouls committed, but fouls called, actually whistled, are at an all-time low in college basketball. Man. There's never been fewer fouls called in our game than we have now, and that to me is a damning statistic. And I don't, if I sat, and our officials are really good. Our officials are really good. Officiating sucks, and until we get our arms around that, we're going to get back into a situation where scoring is going to keep going down and all that stuff, and we're going to be watching these fistfights. And look, I'm this way in football. I watch a football game. I'm an average fan that really enjoys it, but I don't know what the hell's going on. Somebody has to tell me. The announcers have to tell me what's going on, and so I can't tell you this flag was right or a flag should have been thrown there or whatever. But I know it in basketball, and our games would be a heck of a lot better if these officials, if somebody would make these officials do the job right.
Is there a team outside of the top 10 right now to watch out for over the next month as we head into March?
I think there are a bunch of them. I don't know exactly where the rankings are, but it's not like last year. Like last year we had Baylor and Gonzaga, which from early on in the season, it was pretty clear those were the two best teams, and everybody else was going to have to catch up to them, and nobody did. It didn't mean that you couldn't clip them, that UCLA couldn't beat Gonzaga in the Final Four. That almost happened, but we don't have that this year. We've got a bunch of really good teams. Like I think Auburn is a team that has a chance to separate a little bit, and you could argue that heck, they're whatever they are, 20-1. They've kind of separated a little bit now, but I don't get the same feeling watching Auburn that they're so much better than everybody else. Like I felt Gonzaga and Baylor were last year, and it ultimately proved out to be true. But basketball is different than football. Like there are upsets in football, but because their tournament is so small, they've given everybody the feeling that nobody outside of these four teams could compete with these four teams. This is just not true. I mean, the idea that Texas A&M can beat Alabama during the regular season, but they couldn't beat them in a tournament setting is absurd. And same with the rest of them. If football plays fewer games, obviously, so if they played 35 games, you see the records look very similar to what you see in basketball. But because we have a tournament setting and you have to play 6 games to win a national championship, that's hard to do, and it's a heck of a lot harder to win at 2 games in a 4-team setting. So, the games are different, and it gives football the feel of invincibility on the part of some teams, and it doesn't exist like that. And it clearly doesn't exist in basketball.
A lot of people in our state became very familiar last week with the Louisville job because of Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates' name being mentioned. Obviously, Bruce has the new contract. What do you think of that opening in Louisville and where that program sits right now? As you know, we've always considered one of the blue bloods in basketball. How do you see Louisville right now?
Well, it is one of the blue bloods in basketball, and they'll only be down for a short time. I mean, one of the big factors is they've had an NCAA cloud hanging over the program for a number of years. It's affected recruiting, and it doesn't mean you can't overcome it, because other places, LSU, Kansas, Arizona, some other places have overcome it. But it's certainly not easy, and some of those programs haven't been the same as they would have been absent like Kansas is still winning, but that's not the Kansas talent that we've seen in the past because of those issues. So the problem that Louisville has is it's a toxic environment in the athletic department. It has been for some time. And so, obviously that opening and Maryland being open provided some leverage for Bruce Pearl and maybe some others. But even though it was costly, I think Auburn made the right decision locking up a coach as good as Bruce, because he's one of the best. He's one of the very best. And one of the things that I always enjoy watching about Bruce is sort of the intensity of the play. And this is something to watch tonight. One of the things that's really hard when you play against Auburn, same thing when he was in Tennessee and all that, was it's hard to get the ball inbounds against them. He'll put like Walker Kessler on the inbounder, which is usually a guard. So the inbounder can't see in. And if they lob it up, he's got a chance to deflect it. If they throw it low, they got a great chance to steal it. So most teams, when they run out of bounds under, out of bounds on the side, are thinking about getting the shot they want. When tonight, Alabama going against Auburn is going to be thinking about how do we get the ball in. And it's basically five guys playing their butts off for 5 seconds on the inbounds. And, man, it is brutal, and it's really difficult. And those things can be game-winning plays. You keep the other team from scoring on out-of-bounds underplays, which are hard to defend. And that could be, 4, 6, 9 points that make the difference in a game.
8 o'clock tonight, ESPN CJ with Auburn hosting Alabama, number 1 team, Auburn against Alabama. Thank you for your time, Jay. It's wonderful, and I hope you enjoy your time in our state.
Yeah, and how do I get my address to you guys to send the vodka for appearing on the show?
Honestly, on hold, we'll put you on hold, and I will send you a bottle of Red Mont vodka.
I'll just text you. I'll text you, and you can just send it to me. Charles Barkley's part owner of the company, and we would be glad to send you some. You're always kind with your time.
1 bottle?
Okay.
No,
a
case.
We'll
send
get
you
a case.
A case.
Hey, look, Bruce now I've lost my leverage. I should have negotiated this before the interview. One bottle. I'm gonna have to talk to my agent about this.
Oh, you cannot hide those Duke taste buds, man. I tell you. All right, man.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Jay Bilas with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Glad he didn't want an RV from Johnston RV.
Call that a problem, man? 1 bottle. I need a case.
How much are we going to send him?
It comes four bottles to a case, right?
We can get.
We'll work on it. I'm going to text him.